Hey there guys, and welcome back to the Top 10 Strongest series. Last time I looked into the psychic typing, and I'll admit it seems to leave a few of you viewers polarized. I think there were certainly other Pokemon that could have made an appearance in the 10th slot, perhaps even the 9th, but I'm gonna stick with my thoughts on what I put in there for now. I do enjoy the sort of discussion we were able to have from that list though, and I hope to have more discussion today. Well, I know we'll definitely be talking right out of the gate again, but that's all good. I enjoy your engagement. So today, we've got the Steel typing. There were a few suggestions by you guys, but it looked like to me Steel was the popular choice. So that's what we're going at today. We've already seen some Steel types on the last two lists, so I expect to see some make an appearance on this list. As always, this is my opinion, and I want you guys to let me know what the next typing should be that we cover. So let's just put this intro to bed and get right into things. We get this list kicked off with a Pokemon that I'm sure will get a lot of your feathers ruffled. There's a lot of thought that goes into this list, and I actually went and spoke with a few people who are really well versed in competitive Pokemon when I came to this conclusion originally. The Pokemon opening our list today is Lucario. It only just barely made the top 10, which feels like such a far cry from how good it used to be. Naturally, due to its popularity, a lot of you guys probably will not be happy to see it here. I know how offended you guys were over Metagross not making the top 5 last time, but please bear with me. Lucario in BDSP especially is a force to be reckoned with. It's got a nice steel fighting typing as we all know about, and as a mixed attacker, there are few better in the grand scheme of things. There are few Pokemon in BDSP that want to risk switching in on a Lucario using Swords Dance, as there just weren't too many options in the first 493 that could deal with it. However, when we look at Sword and Shield, there are most certainly a fair amount of Pokemon that are out to make Lucario know its place. Its move pool does have great moves in close combat and Flash Cannon, with plenty of coverage options as well. It just can't operate to a seriously successful degree in Sword and Shield, and that's what caps it here at number 10. Please have some mercy on me. I know some of you reasonable folks understand and identify the same issues, but I can just hear the fans getting angry. I talked about this Pokemon in our last video, so I'll keep it a bit short. Bronzong is the next Pokemon on the list, bringing that Steel Psychic typing into the discussion. It's a great typing as we talked about prior, but I'll save some more of that discussion for later. So with Bronzong, it's a pretty good play in BDSP if you're messing around in UU or something, since its defenses are really nice alongside the typing. If it ends up on a Trick Room team as well, it can serve as a nice little attacking option with Earthquake, Iron Head, and other moves able to be used. It's got Levitate, so ground type moves are not able to hit it, and defensively it has 116 in both defenses, so it will be a tank. Bronzong can even set up hazards, run Gyro Ball, and tank some hits while running Toxic. It works out well under those certain circumstances. But for the most part, it is still outclassed by many of the Pokemon coming up on the list. We'll hit on another Sinnoh Pokemon here, as we've been doing for most of this list so far. Magnazone is one of my favorites to use in-game when I'm looking for an electric type, so I'm glad I'm able to talk about it today. It's funny we're talking about Steel types, because Magnazone is effectively a Steel type's worst nightmare. It's got the Magnet Pull ability, which traps Steel types on the field when Magnazone is out there. That means Pokemon like Skarmory and Corvinite, which we'll be talking about today, are extremely threatened. When in a doubles match, it could keep a Ferrothorn or Scizor out in battle so they can be destroyed by Fire-type moves. It really does take some annoying Pokemon out of the equation that cannot be ignored. As an attacker, it can be solid, since it has 130 base special attack, and some moves like Flash Cannon and Volt Switch for pivoting. But there isn't too much in the way of coverage. Magnazone is a fantastic support Pokemon with just Magnet Pull alone, and what brings it into a battle was enough to throw it into today's conversation. So now we move on to Metagross, still not managing to come in the top 5 of either of its typings, which is a shame. Don't make any mistakes about it, Metagross is still a great Pokemon, just lacking due to the loss of its Mega, and of course general mechanic changes in Sword and Shield altogether. It's still a stupidly strong Pokemon that can take physical hits, and really its speed isn't as bad as it could be. Having Clear Body means in battle with Dynamaxed Pokemon, it doesn't need to worry about any stat drops. If you run a weakness policy on it too, well, you've got a nice opportunity to gain a big stat bump. If you wanted to go Assault Vest, there isn't much wrong with that either. You may find yourself getting more out of Metagross as a utility Pokemon with Stealth Rocks and Toxic as opposed to a meteor mashing badass. But it is what it is. It's actually perhaps in some ways a little bit better as a Steel type than it is as a Psychic type, despite ranking lower here today. There are just so many good Steel types as we're about to see. It was hard to compete. Regardless, I'm still a huge fan of Metagross. Now we'll close out this bottom 5 with a really good one. One of my absolute favorite Pokemon of this type, Skarmory. It's got a little niche role in several tiers. It can do basically everything you need a supportive Pokemon to do. It's going to set up hazards, whether they be spikes or rocks, then moves like Tailwind to set up the team's speed, or Taunt to cripple opposing Pokemon. It's crazy. I bring up all that, and it almost makes you forget it's got base 140 defense, which makes it an absolute menace in BDSP especially. There are few Pokemon in the first 4 gens that can handle it with ease, as it resists Dragon-type moves and isn't affected by ground types. So Garchomp most certainly doesn't want anything to do with this heavy bird. You can use Defog to hurt the opponent's hazard setups, perhaps even run Substitute to prolong Skarmory's time on the battlefield. There are so many things that Skarmory can do as a supporter, but unfortunately for it, you need to have to do more than just be support to get into the top 5 today. Kicking off our top 5 today is the once banned to Ubers Pokemon, Aegislash. It's always rare to see a non-legendary or mythical Pokemon end up in Ubers, but a while back, that was the life Aegislash lived. It is easy to see why. At any moment, it could have either 140 in its attack stats or 140 in its defenses, and that's very hard to plan for. Also, the Steel Ghost typing is a very good one, because it completely eliminates the fighting types from the equation, which are one of the biggest responses for Steel types that teams will carry. So with King Shield being able to activate stance change and whatnot, you're able to take hits easily and remain a defensive stalwart with the chance to run Substitute and Toxic and basically punish other Pokemon slowly. However, you can switch over to being an attacker and rely on Shadow Ball or even Shadow Sneak, perhaps close combat. It's mighty viable to set up with Swords Dance too. You can accomplish either top tier annoyance or major power with Aegislash. And for most teams, there will be a struggle to contain this Royal Sword, though it most certainly isn't impossible. This thing isn't banned like it used to be, so the counters are real and plentiful out there. It's one taunt away from having no defenses and getting put down in the ground. That said, it is still great, and probably one of the best openers to a top 5 that we'll see on these lists. Scizor checks in next on the list, serving as one of the best attackers and pivoters we've talked about all day. It's the king of BDSP Steel types in that competitive, being able to handle most of the powerful Pokemon that would challenge it in that competitive scene. We're talking Pokemon like Alakazam, the Latis, Weavile, all of them fall at the mercy of moves like Bullet Punch and U-Turn. Why those moves? Well, that's thanks to the Technician ability, which boosts their strength very nicely. It's able to run the Choice Band or just use Swords Dance. Either way, you're getting a nice power boost to Scizor's already tremendous 130 base attack. Have you seen its defenses too? It can take a few hits. It's just that good. The one major drawback to Scizor is that major fire weakness. But aside from that, there are just so many little things you can do with the pincer Pokemon that lead to big gains. it leaves a splash no matter what. The top 3 is opened with a long-time favorite of competitive Pokemon players, the great Excadrill. This Univin Pokemon made some waves when it debuted, thanks to the Mold Breaker ability, and now it still serves as an insanely strong sweeper. Now, I'll be frank, it is stopped by Pokemon like Rillaboom and Flyers that obviously don't care about its ground-type moves. Some in particular who aren't affected by the Steel-type moves either. Though, regardless of whether or not you deal with those kinds of Pokemon, well, Excadrill is still a next-level Rapid Spinner, and setting up with Swords Dance couldn't be easier. You either Earthquake or you Iron Head. It's really that simple, easy, and effective. If you want to set up Stealth Rocks, do that too. Excadrill easily could have come in at number 1 today, if not for the problems it faces from grass types, as well as Pokemon like Skarmory. Still, this mole is just so good. So how about this one in the penultimate spot, eh? Corviknight on the last Steel-type list was merely an honorable mention. But now with more information and more spots on the list, it's found a way to come in so close to the top. We already discussed how good its typing is when we talked about Skarmory, so we'll get into some other stuff. Like, how about Corviknight's abilities? Pressure and Mirror Armor are great depending on the type of battle you're in, like with Mirror Armor being nice for doubles, and Pressure for singles. You can sit down Corviknight and slap the Rocky helmet on it and run Iron Defense with Body Press, and boom, you've got Team MVP pretty much. Like, it seriously plays hard when it builds up that defense. Its typing is already good on its own, but when you start to build its offenses around that defense, it turns into an absolute stud. When you add in U-turn, you gain pivoting action, and Defog remains a good support move to get rid of the hazards. Don't let me forget about Roost either. There are even means of healing. Corviknight is just a top-tier Steel type, and really was only outdone by our top spot today because that Pokemon is just ridiculously defensively, even more so than Corviknight. Let's get into it, shall we? The number 1 spot should come as no surprise to any competitive player. Now that there are no Megas and no Legendaries to bog down this list, Ferrothorn can sit atop the mountain as not just the best Steel type, but hands down one of the best competitive Pokemon in the entire 8th generation. It covers anything. Fairy types, water types, ground types, you name it. Through either running hazards alongside Leech Seed, or just wearing the Rocky helmet and letting those iron barbs work to create chip damage, Ferrothorn is dominant and annoying in any sort of role. Seriously. Knockoff, Body Press, Power Whip, all offensive options if you want to lean into that side of things while still being able to be dominant. Fire types? Who cares? This is still an incredible Pokemon that I don't think I need to even really justify. So I'm cutting it here. I look forward to seeing where Ferrothorn ends up on the grass list. I'm sure it'll be high once again. Alright, we've got another list down the drain. I'm once again feeling pretty good about this one, but I want to hear from you guys. Did I get this one right? How do you feel about Lucario being where it is? What typing do you want to see me cover next? I'll be checking out your responses, and I'll see you next time. Welcome back to the outro, folks, your favorite part of the video. Thank you for enjoying another Mystic Umbreon video. We made it through the end of the 8th generation, and now we begin the long trek into late 2022 where Pokemon Scarlet and Violet await us. It's a whole new world we'll live in, but we still gotta catch them all. However, there's still a ton of videos to do and experiences to have until then. If you're interested in more Mystic content, check out my TikTok and the Mystic Umbreon Shorts YouTube channel. If we get the 10k followers on TikTok, I'll be doing a viewer's choice video. If you like Genshin Impact, check out my Genshin channel Teibachinary. So if you all enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.